What am I doing here? Is this a documentary or a music video or something else? These are strange days. COVID-infected, morally congested, strange days indeed. Hard to know just where to begin. What brings me here? What gives me the right to say these things out loud? To recount the voices I hear in my head, these voices I have carried year after year. What the hell? It's been almost 5 decades since I first walked onto the grounds of Harding Psychiatric Hospital in Worthington, Ohio. 46 years since my apprenticeship with Don Jones. And on that first day, he asked if I had brought along a sketchbook. I assumed he wanted me to take notes, make insightful clinical observations. I said something to that effect, and he laughed and said, No, I want you to draw and write poetry about the things you see, people you meet. Long time. All that swirled together with innate ability, desire, ruthless ambition, and a philosophy of seeing the world from an artistic perspective. And of course, there was this raging fire inside that just wouldn't quit. So that is the recipe, the formula that brings me here. You see, I paid attention. I wrote poetry and drew pictures of the people I met. Marginalized, disenfranchised, ostracized souls, people battered by the world, kids betrayed by those who should have protected them. One by one, they found their way into the hospital. One by one, they found their way into my heart and eventually made their way into these songs. I should tell you that everything you're going to hear is true, but the names and details have been changed in order to protect their privacy. It's been a long time, and yet I still see their faces, the paintings and drawings they made, and I hear their voices. There are pictures we don't want to see. There are stories that we don't want to read. Sometimes we look away and sometimes we stare. Sometimes we don't listen. Sometimes we don't care about the voices from nowhere. All these voices from nowhere. I hear voices from nowhere. We all practice, we all play the game. We don't notice, we have no shame. Human tragedy like litter on the road. Avert your eyes, let it go. These voices from nowhere. All these voices from nowhere. I hear voices from nowhere. Psychopaths in LA, psychotics in New York. Miami has their maniacs, they'll kill you with a fork. I know this is gospel, I know that this is true. I saw it on the evening news, surely you did too. These voices from nowhere. All these voices from nowhere. I hear voices from nowhere. Wind blows cold in the season. Fears grow beyond all reason. There is no justice, it is not fair. Listen to the voices from nowhere, these voices from nowhere. All these voices from nowhere. I hear voices from nowhere. the hours continue to fall. Blocks in my memory like bricks in a wall. Maybe this was meant to be, maybe this was fate. I recall the voices, I hope it's not too late. These voices from nowhere, all these voices from nowhere. I hear voices from nowhere. Can't you hear the voices from nowhere? All these voices from nowhere. One surefire way to have your voice lost in nowhere is to be a little on the slow side. It's easy to be heard when you're bright and well-read, articulate. It's quite another to be developmentally challenged. I remember how some of the line staff members would talk about the FLKs, which stood for the funny-looking kids. Well, let me tell you about Bobby. His parents had abandoned him when he was a toddler, and he'd been badly abused by his uncle. He didn't like to talk about it much. He didn't like to talk about anything other than trucks and sometimes dogs. But he sure as hell would draw. He was an FLK that I will never forget. When I met Bobby, he wouldn't even look at me at all. He'd stand with his hands in his pocket, lean against the wall. And his doctor said there was really nothing that he could report. Well, I guess they gave him to me, thinking I was just a last resort. Well, he's 17 years old and he still hadn't passed the 7th grade. He's the only kid in junior high who really needs to shave every day. He drew a picture of himself with a broom stuck where it don't belong. And he shoved it across the table as if to say, hey, tell me, is that wrong? Well, Bobby wouldn't speak, there was nothing left to say. Hell, he must have figured it wouldn't matter anyway. All the things his uncle did were locked up deep inside. I guess no one ever noticed, 'cause Bobby never cried. No one gave him much of a chance, I guess they figured he's a lost cause. But he's almost an adult, and he still believed in good old Santa Claus. But the thing about him was, though he would not talk, you should have seen him draw. During 2 long years, he showed them my Bobby drew it all. And I never will forget the last time we met. He had tears in his eyes and his cheeks got so wet. He opened up his mouth and the words finally came. He said, I love you, Bruce, and he said it without shame. Back when I met Bobby, he wouldn't even look at me at all. He'd stand with his hands in his pocket and he'd lean against the wall. In August of 1975, I was finishing up my apprenticeship with Don Jones, and in passing one afternoon, he mentioned that there was going to be an opening on the AT staff at the hospital, and he wondered if I'd be interested in applying. I filled out the application that day and waited on pins and needles to see if I would be hired. I really was in love with the work. My apprenticeship ended on a Friday, and the next Monday I joined the staff, making $3.25 an hour. I thought I was in heaven. Now, in those days, the average length of stay for patients in the hospital was somewhere in the neighborhood of 9 months. We really had time to develop deep relationships, and I encountered so many struggling people with heartbreaking situations. Needless to say, my sketchbooks filled with images and poems. I'll never forget Dolores. She was a little overweight, wildly flamboyant, but socially awkward. The first time I met her, she got right up in my face and began singing, "Roll out the barrel and have a good time. Let's have a holiday." That was Dolores. Dolores finds a radio. She spins across the floor. Her fingers seek a station. Songs they don't write no more. And she twirls and dips and giggles, her makeup caked and cracked. She doesn't seem to notice good times aren't coming back. She has ruby red lips and rouge upon her cheeks, purple on her eyelids. Sometimes her eyelids leak. And she asks if I can tango. She asks every day or two. I say my hands are dirty. She says your mind is too. Oh Dolores, what you gonna do when her dance begins to slow? She sways up so close to me and whispers, I don't know. Dolores does not wash her hair, and her breath is thick with smoke, cheap perfume and Lysol, but it almost makes me choke. And her eyes dance with a maddening joy as she removes her gloves. Somewhere deep inside of me, I know this must be love. Oh Dolores, what you gonna do when the dance begins to slow? She sways up so close to me and whispers, I don't know. Now the years have moved along, nothing much remains. They closed down the asylum, big business has no shame. And I wondered about Dolores, many more who did not dance. In a world of hawks, she's just a dove. She never had a chance. Dolores, what you gonna do when her dance begins to slow? She sways up so close to me and whispers, I don't know. She sways up so close to me and whispers, I don't know. In the art therapy group, Dolores drew out her fears, dreams, and frustrations, and she would laugh so hard sometimes, and sometimes cry. She told me once that what she wanted more than anything else in her life was to be a ballerina. A ballerina. She'd like to be a ballerina. She'd like to dance across the stage. You might say it's like a dream she has, to free her tiger from its cage. Some people smile and they turn away. They say she doesn't have a chance. She's 21, yeah, way over the hill. They say she's far too old to dance, but she wants to be a ballerina. She wants to dance into our lives, and though her burden may be heavy, against the odds, well, she still tries. She dreams of symphonies and colored lights coming on. She dreams of curtains going up. She has no fear, no, not a trace. I know she will not give it up. So dance, lady, dance, dance, lady, dance. She'd like to be a ballerina. Pirouette across the sky. In a magic dance of mystery, a shard of color in our eyes, with a storyline of loving, a magic dance that never ends. With a message clear and simple, it's our dreams that make us friends. So dance, lady, dance, dance, ballerina, dance, go, dance, lady, dance, dance, ballerina, dance. So maybe you figured out by now, and I don't want to lie about it, I am a liberal. I'm a liberal, and I'm not ashamed of being liberal. memo to Sean Hannity. I'm a liberal and proud of it. Take that, Tucker Carlson. And take that, Roger Ailes. And take that, Mitch McConnell. I'm a liberal. Well, I'm a liberal, and I confess I like Barack. Yeah, he's the best. I voted for him every time I could, and all things considered, it turned out pretty good. Well, they got the economy back on track, and affordable health care, that's a fact. It don't matter who you marry, the girl next door or your old friend Larry. I believe in free speech and democratic selection. Don't want the Russians messing in our election. Much to someone's dismay and surprise, I know the difference between truth and lies. Now, I don't want to sound like a leftist grunt, but I'm getting awful tired of them. You can figure it out. Some say a good economy is all we need, but I won't live my life by the rules agreed. My Bible says you gotta do unto others, and the whole wide world is full of my brothers. You can call me hopeless, call me naive. I'm a liberal, that's what I believe. Well, I've been stuck at home till COVID lets up. Nothing else to do but make stuff up. My values formed in the summer of love, when the times were changing, all you needed was love. So you can tweet it to the red and tweet it to the blue. I'm singing this song for me and you. Yeah, talking the liberal, patriotic blues. Woohoo! Here's a quick history lesson. In 1968, Richard Nixon escalated the war in Vietnam. In 1971, he declared war on drugs. It's been going on for quite some time now, and there seems to be no end in sight. In 2003, George W. Bush declared war on Iraq in order to purge that country of its weapons of mass destruction. We've been in conflict in one place or another for the last 17 years. You can debate whether or not the Vietnam War or the Iraq War or the war in Afghanistan was necessary. You can argue about whether or not we won or are winning. But wars are the birthing grounds for heroes and legends. And beneath these legends there are always countless faceless, nameless casualties. Call them collateral damage. Some of their names are on a wall. Some can be found wandering the streets in northern Maine and Miami and in Southern California and in Chicago and everywhere in between. My name is nothing, you may have seen me. I live on a corner in the Windy City. I do not raise my eyes to people passing by. They do not notice, they don't ask why. My name is nothing, I may have seen you. If not for bad luck, I may have been you. The lines are oh so thin between what might have been. And if you had your way, you'd never see me again. One day I'll stand up and I'll be counted. One day I'll stand up and I'll be counted. My name is nothing you might remember. I fought in Vietnam, I still remember. But I don't understand these flashes now and then. I guess it's something died way back then. My name is nothing, you may have heard me. Brother, you got some change, you could spare me. Now don't you understand, when I raise my hand, I've got a name, I am a man. One day I'll stand up and I'll be counted. One day I'll stand up and I'll be counted. My name is David. My name is David. My name is David. I ended up working at that psychiatric hospital for 22 years. I figure that worked out to about 26,000 hours spent in the company of hurting people. Somewhere along the way, I started writing books about the work and eventually got invited to become an assistant professor. Along the way, I got a PhD, wrote some more books, and gradually moved up the ladder to a full professor. But the truth is, I never was all that enamored by academic research. I never really liked graphs, and N and chi and double-blind studies always made me sleepy. I'd like to think, though, that my contribution to my field was all about honoring literary narrative, telling stories. Despite my 20 years in teaching, I was never able to shake my longing to be in relationship with clients, and so I use my art to tell their stories. This next song is about Antoine, an African-American boy who'd been adopted by a Caucasian family, and although they loved him, he really struggled to fit in. Says my real mama was a queen. Says my daddy must have been a real fine man. I know his mama loved the rock. She didn't even know the man. Child come to the asylum, winter of his 11th year. Bangs his head and he punches his face. He says, there ain't nothing that Antoine fears. Antoine got a razor in his heart. You can see that it cut him apart. Standing close to him, you feel the wind blow. 'Cause Antoine got a razor, everybody knows. Yeah, he was just a baby when that family took him in. Fine blonde hair, their clear blue eyes, fine Caucasian skin. They picked him out just like a dog. Must have been some kind of mistake, he says. All them kids there and they picked me. Oh man, they made a mistake. Antoine got a razor in his heart. You can see that it cut him apart. Stand close to him, you feel the wind blow. 'Cause Antoine got a razor and everybody knows. Little boy, he hits and spits, teeth clenched, he bites. Eyes closed, he turns away, hands clenched, he fights. He walks a walk, talks a talk, smears paint across the page. Rivers of red and shadows in black, man, you can see the rage. In his heart, you can see that it cut him apart. Stand close to him, you feel the wind blow. 'Cause Antoine got a razor and everybody knows. Years roll by on Antoine and I. We see each other now and then. 10 years of sadness, a decade of shame. Never sure if I will ever see him again. Fists of rage, tears of grief. Saw it all in Antoine's heart. Must have been some kind of mistake. Someone put a razor in Antoine's heart. Antoine got a razor in his heart. You can see that it cut him apart. Stand close to him, you feel the wind blow. 'Cause Antoine got a razor and everybody knows. Antoine got a razor in his heart. You can see that it cut him apart. Stand close to him, you feel the wind blow. 'Cause Antoine got a razor and everybody knows. Antoine got a razor and everybody knows. Antoine got a razor and everybody knows. If all you knew about people with mental illness were the things that you see on television or in the movies, you might be a little nervous. But really, in all the time I worked at the hospital, all the people I met there, they were just hurting folks, struggling to get by, doing the best they could. I have a friend who says that we should never romanticize mental illness. But why not romanticize the courage, the kindness that you can see? Well, Willy was like that. He lived in a world I can only imagine, filled with gods and demons and heroes. Super Willy was his name. Willy, he's a wild man, and his lines are well rehearsed. He was a superhero in his private universe. Gods and saints and villains, in scriptures he confessed. He soared into the galaxy with a W on his chest. Well, the world is full of evil, monsters to be slain. Willy, he's a hero. Super Willy was his name. One day he dropped the gesso as he headed out to war. Down, down the Thracia Dam, white spread across the floor. And he looked to me with terror as if my heart was black. Please, oh please, don't punish me. Please, don't send me back. Willy, Willy, it's okay. Willy, there's no shame. We knelt upon the floor while Willy was his name. Yeah, the world is full of evil, monsters to be slain. Willy was a hero, Super Willy was his name. Willy painted me some pictures of his wild universe. I tried to be a blessing, but I might have been a curse. And he inherited 20 million, and he flew out toward the sun. I swear the world is safe today, for the battles he has won. Yeah, the world is full of evils, monsters to be slain. Willy was a hero, Super Willy was his name. Yeah, the world is full of evils, monsters to be slain. Willy was a hero, Super Willy was his name. Willy was a hero, Super Willy was his name. Too often in our country, the voices of women have been disregarded. And it's even harder if you're an adolescent woman and a victim of abuse. Fading daylight filtered through the studio windows. I was sitting across the table from a young woman. She was putting the final touches on her painting. A large red heart on a dark background, pierced by a sword, deep blue oozing from the wound. I asked, "Tracy, are you going to sign it?" "No," she said. "If I sign this, everything will be done here. I don't want to go." And she reached out, brushed a piece of lint away from the red heart, and red paint smeared her fingers. She'd be flying to Tucson later in the week. Her father's in jail, for abusing Tracy and her sister, and her mother doesn't want her anymore. She said, "Bruce, art is like breathing to me. It's how I survive." She took one last long look around the studio, stood up, shook my hand, and left. A small red stain was left on the palm of my hand, and I was left with her words. Art is like breathing to me. It's how I survive. Cold wind against the window, snow drifts on the lawn. Tracy signs a picture, Tracy's moving on. She's heading out for Tucson. Her father sits in jail. Her mother does not want her. Yet Tracy looks so frail. She says my daddy didn't mean it, and her heart is filled with shame. And she tells me she deserved it. Now nothing else remains. Your love can be so good, love can be so bad. Bandages upon her wrist made Tracy look so sad. She says art is like breathing, that's how I survive. Yes, art is just like breathing, pain keeps me alive. She looks around the studio at all the things she's made, and she almost speaks to me. She's trying to be brave. I said, Tracy, you did nothing wrong. This was not your fault. Tracy, you did nothing wrong. This was not your fault. She says art is like breathing, it's how I survive. Yes, art is just like breathing, paint keeps me alive. I said this was not your fault. 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 Okay, I'm about done. It's late fall and I should be getting excited about the holidays coming up and college football season. But COVID has made this a fall unlike any other. Everything seems a little dark and frightening. And then, out of nowhere, I get an email from a former client years ago. She says that she feels like her back's against the wall and she might drown. I write back to her and remind her that that's a mixed metaphor. She remembers how I Used to just sit and watch her paint and be with her. And here she is now, in her 40s, a wife and a mother, a professional woman. And she wants to be reassured by me. She reminds me of when I was a kid, going in all the wrong directions. And my high school art teacher, R.J. Cromer, saw something inside of me. He put a paintbrush in my hand and said, "I believe in you." Well, the last time I saw this woman, she was a 15-year-old, gangly, gothic black, wannabe rock star. And here she is now. Really, it's she who reassures me. At the beginning, I asked the question, what am I doing here? I guess this has all been for the Bobbies I've known, for Dolores, for Antoine, for Willy and David, and all the Tracys who've come through my studio. I want to tell them, I will be your witness. When your darkest night is all around, your lonely cry is the only sound. When your dreams are catching fire, they hang your life out on a wire. Call my name, call my name, I will testify. I'll be your witness, I'm your man. I'll be your witness, I'll take the stand. I'll testify, I'll testify. When no one hears your call, when they stand you up against the wall, when it feels like you might drown, so-called friends cannot be found. Call my name, yeah, call my name, I will testify. I'll be your witness, I'll take the stand. I'll be your witness, I'm your man. I'll tell them all with all my might. I'll tell them all just how hard you fight. I'll be your witness. I'll tell them all about your grace. I'll tell them all, I'll state your case. I'm your witness. I tell them all just who you are. I tell them all how you came so far. I'll be your witness. I tell them all you're the greatest. I tell them all you're the best. I'll be your witness. I'll be your witness. I'll be your witness. You can count on me, baby. I'll be your witness. I'll be your witness. I hope it's not too late. These voices from nowhere, all these voices from nowhere. I hear voices from nowhere. Can't you hear the voices from nowhere? All these voices from nowhere. All these voices from nowhere. I hear voices from nowhere. Can't you hear the voices from nowhere? All these voices from nowhere. All these voices from nowhere.